hello, and welcome to episode number 289 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carlos, and joining me, as always, in the PTUK studios this week is the man that pushes all the right buttons and presses all the right touchscreen functions. It's Matt Smith.
And quite often all the wrong ones as well, it has to be said. Hello, mate. How are you?
Oh, good. Yes, it's nice to be over again, to see you in the PTUK studios.
Lovely. Yes. Always a pleasure. Never in any way a chore.
And we had a bit of a passing glance at each other this week on the UK roads, didn't we, as well?
We did. Yes. There was some mutual waving. I confused one of your colleagues by waving at what is usually your lorry. I waved at Carlos's lorry, and it wasn't Carlos in it. So this very polite man sort of looked very confused, but waved back,
he
to
did,
be fair. Yeah, so he
Andrew,
did wave back. Yeah, absolutely.
Andrew. Hobbo, as his plate says in the window. Yeah.
Hobbo. All right. Did he have a plate in the window?
He's got a plate in the window.
No,
yeah. Hobbo. Yeah. We've got me, obviously Carlos, and then we've got Hobbo, and then we've got Stevie. Stevie.
Does he mind being called Stevie?
No, he loves being called Stevie.
Does he?
Yeah.
Right.
But it was. I got a very nice salute off Matt whilst he whizzed past.
Oh yes,
coach,
I do that,
nice.
Don't I?
Yeah.
He said,
I was really chuffed, actually. I was really
like
chuffed. Oh no, I was so chuffed for that.
Absolutely.
That made my week. That did.
Yeah, you don't get out much, do you, mate?
Not at all. No. Not out of Suffolk. So, apologies this week from Mr. Bounds. He is unable to join us this week due to I think he's having a jolly somewhere, isn't he, Matt?
He's coming back from Antwerp, isn't
Antwerp,
he? I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he's flying home on one of those
a Fokker.
Pardon?
Indeed.
He's flying home on one of those aircraft, and he'll be back next week, hopefully.
Yes. We're very much hoping that we might actually get a sort of Nev's passenger experience, actually, because it'd be nice to compare that against the A350. Was it 350? No. Yeah, it was
the 350. Yeah.
You're right.
Even if we get an NPE from the Fokker,
we won't
be able to hear it. Yeah, we won't be able to hear it.
Too much background noise.
Yeah. We'll have something from the Fokker anyway, so we'll be okay. So moving swiftly on to it's a Fokker. It's a brilliant aircraft. Bit noisy, but great aircraft. Joining us this week, as always, as you heard.
I feel well.
It's the man, the legend, the pilot, the guy who does everything to do with flying and aviation. It's Armando.
Hey, everybody. I am super happy to be back for the entire show this time.
Way! Winning.
Yeah, hope you guys are well. Not a whole lot going on in my end. A little bit of flying and then a lot of housework. So it's been kind of an easy week.
The domestic god that is.
Housework, is that IKEA things or no? Are we finished with
No,
IKEA
believe it
now?
or not, I am still unpacking from my move.
Oh my goodness!
6 months later.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Where's this? I want to know where the simulator is because I so want another go at that.
I haven't set it up yet. Believe it or not.
Whoa! That's
no.
it. You and I are no longer friends.
I was going to fly over tomorrow as well. Oh, well.
Were you now?
Okay. Well.
After the conversation we had earlier about credit cards and stuff, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yep. Probably not a good idea. We have got a super guest joining us in the studio this week.
Could you?
And
another octave high would be perfect. Thank you.
Super guest joining us this week in the P2K studios, and it's always a pleasure to have you back, the gorgeous Mila.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me again, once more. It's good to be here.
So, how are things with you, Mila? What's been going on in the world of cargo flying?
I have been flying quite a bit, actually, and it's been good. It's been a nice experience, so I'm happy, puppy.
Good.
Yes, I've got my new roster, and I've got 2 new destinations.
Oh, where are those?
Warsaw and Budapest.
Ooh. Budapest.
Yes.
Oh, I say. That's
You might bump into Captain L.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Have you sorted out your disagreement with Rosterbuster or whatever it was?
No, I'm not paying their fees.
Oh, okay.
I can't stalk anyone now because they want you to pay for it.
Yeah. Are you sure that's not the court injunction that's kicked in? Are you sure?
Oh no, it's horrible. I just have to rely on Stuart sending me his roster now as a PDF.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just not be tight and pay for it.
I'd pay for enough aviation-related apps.
Then
right
drop
now.
one.
I can't because you love them all.
Right. Okay. I don't know what to do here, ladies and gentlemen.
And how's the aircraft behaving itself?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Oh, good.
It's a good one. Yes.
Excellent. Well,
there's a lot of inappropriate chat going on in the chat.
Is it
room, by the
really?
way. Yeah. Something about a Messerschmitt.
Okay. So we've got a lovely chat room group of people joining us this evening. We've got the lovely Auntie Liz is in the chat room.
Yes.
Owen is in the chat room this week as well, so evening to you, Owen. Masha is in the chat room as well. Who we asked? We've gone scrolling up the list here. Stephen H. Hello to you, Stephen H.
John Jester.
Dave Abbey, also in the chat room. Richard Adams, hello to you as well.
Yeah.
Neil Lambourne's just popped in as well. He's just dropped into the chat room as well. So good evening to you. So welcome to one and all who have joined us on this Friday evening. And it's the, what is it today? The 4th of October today.
I feel like the chat room is one of those things where everybody just starts warming up, gets dinner, grabs a drink before APG comes on after us. So
Yes, I know. We've still got to keep to another tight schedule, haven't we? Otherwise we're overlap.
So we've got lots coming up in tonight's show. We've got, hopefully, as long as Matt's got one queued up, we've got our last segment from Biggin Hill.
Me, I am on it.
Okay.
How very
Last little bit from Biggin Hill coming up later on. We've also got some military news brought to us by Armando. And we've got lots of great stories this week in the news.
Everybody's very excited about the Doubleheader Podcast Day, by the way.
Doubleheader Podcast Day.
Doubleheader Podcast Day. See, it's Friday. That's what Fridays are all about.
Oh.
You don't need television on a Friday.
No,
because you can watch us first, and then a serious aviation news programme like APG.
Perhaps if you are watching the show via your big screen TV in your front room, tweet us a picture. Yeah,
Indeed, actually, you can either tweet us, or actually, if you give me 2 minutes, we do also have a special WhatsApp number we can use now as well.
Oh yes, we do.
So people can WhatsApp.
We're moving
us as well.
into the
So give me a couple of give me a couple of moments.
Moving into the future here.
Yes, and we will do that.
So I had a rather exciting experience.
I bet you didn't.
This week whilst I was at work.
Right.
Because actually, Armando, you'd appreciate this because whilst I was outside busy washing my vehicle, as you do,
Right.
I had two C-130Js fly over at very low level indeed. I think I probably could have reached up and I probably nearly hit one with the brush of my
doubt
cleaning the lorry. But that was awesome, and the sound was mega. My boss came running out to see what was going on, and
he's a bit of a plane geek as well. Actually,
I'm starting
you're converting
to convert
him.
Stuart to become an aviation enthusiast. It does. It's definitely true.
There we go. Here we go. Look, so ladies and gents, seriously, if you are a WhatsApp user and would like to send us a message here in the studio while we're doing the show, you can do.
Okay.
So I'll give you the international code. So here we go. So it's +44.
Oh, where's the plus thing on here?
Oh, here we go. This could be a really sorry, ladies and gentlemen. This could be a long slow.
Oh, I've got it. Mila's found it. Well done.
Right. Okay.
+44.
So +44.
Yeah.
7572.
72. Yeah.
249
166.
166. So that's +44
Right.
7572
contact
249 166. +44 7572 249 166. You can send us messages into the studio directly, and we will be able to. You can also, from that, send us audio feedback, which is. Owen's taking the mickey out of me now. Look, he's posted it. He's put it in the chat room. So it's, as I say, +44 7572 249 166.
Right,
you can also send audio feedback via that. And so you
I've
can
just sent a message.
Have you? Right. Okay. You sent me a photograph of the people.
I've got an automated reply. That's cool.
You'll probably. Yeah,
Thank you for getting in touch with Carlos, Nev, Armando, and Matt. One of us will come back to you real soon.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah, so I'm very efficient like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, there we are. So that's it. So
I don't want to know what the first photograph that Carlos sent us to that number.
No, indeed, none of us do.
How you arise?
Anyway, there we are. So do feel free to send. Yes, use and abuse it, says Owen. Yes, indeed. Do feel free to send messages into us. As I say, WhatsApp, it's completely free. That's the beauty because it uses your data connection to do it. You can send video, you can send pictures, you can send audio.
That's going to be a really good way for people to send us audio feedback.
Audio feedback. That's the thing, because you can use
easier than an email.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
like
welcome to the 21st century, everyone.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely. Should we do some aviation news?
To be fair, everyone uses WhatsApp nowadays.
We do, yes.
So we are going to start the show then, as we do each week, with a rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready,
Charles, I'll have you know. Charles.
And if you're ready, Armando.
Ready to go.
Yes.
Did you have something funny with you in your tea this evening?
Milo made it.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's go.
Yes.
Who knows?
Who knows?
So, kicking off this week's first news story is on the mailonline.co.uk. And this headline, rather interesting one this week. We're going to start with the toilets. So cameras outside, I know, cameras outside the toilets could be coming to the connected airline cabins of the future to help crew redirect passengers if there's a long queue.
Right.
So cameras outside the toilets could be coming to airline cabins in a not very distant future. That's if Airbus connected cabins takes off. They'll be trialling a version of cameras outside toilets that the aircraft manufacturer says it will help crew redirect passengers to other bathrooms if there are long queues and signal when someone has spent an unusually long time inside. The cameras will be part of a system that will alert crew if it thinks the soap or toilet rolls may need replenishing. Airbus insists the cameras won't invade privacy as they will not be collecting data on how long passengers have spent in the bathroom and will blur faces.
Okay.
Ingo Wugetzer, VP Marketing at Airbus, told CNN the information might go to the crew, but it's completely decoupled from any personal passenger information. It's an anonymous solution, and this should help passengers find the fastest way to the lavatory. I think we all know where they are. He also added that the cameras will just be an option offered to airlines. Controversy has been in the air over the use of cameras on board, and earlier this year we actually covered the story, didn't we, about Singapore Airlines, Delta and American and United having cameras embedded in back seats. Do you remember that? We covered that story, didn't we? So the new Airbus cabin, called the Airspace Connected Experience, will also be fitted with wireless sensors to collect onboard data about passengers' habits, as we reported as well. Sensors embedded in the seats will relay how often passengers go to the lavatory, their sleeping patterns, and what angle they recline their chair to. Meanwhile, sensors in the TV screens will allow analysts to track what type of media is most popular, allowing them to better tailor the content to clients' needs. In the galley, sensors embedded in the trolley units will indicate when stock levels are running low and what meal choices or beverages prove most popular. While below deck, sensors in the cargo hold will mean that airline staff will be able to monitor the temperature and capacity levels to help keep pets safe and precious goods undamaged. Airbus says the features will allow carriers to usher in a new personalised experience for passengers and provide opportunities for improving airlines' ancillary revenues and operational efficiencies. Testing of the new cabin technology is taking place on board the A350-900. So cameras checking what toilets are having a... I mean, I think, wouldn't you agree, Armando, the Mark 1 eyeball is fairly good at, sussing out.
You know, I think generally there's cabin crews somewhere around the toilets anyways, but I don't know. I guess, it's like everything else. It's, coaches are more interconnected. If you go on a cruise ship, it's more interconnected. If you buy a recreational vehicle, it's more interconnected nowadays. So I suppose it's only time that, airplanes are going to go that way too. I like the idea of, hey, if a toilet is dirty or soap is out or something like that. I don't, it's one of those things. Is it broken? Is it a solution? Looking for a problem. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd be interested in what Owen has to say about this. About having a completely, wired cabin.
You don't have this trouble, I don't expect, do you, Mila, on your aircraft queues to the toilet?
No.
No.
It's just us. But Owen is actually saying, I like the idea if we have a customer who collapses in the toilet, it's easier to know this.
True.
So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's trouble is it's only monitoring what's outside, I guess, isn't it? It's not actually monitoring. What?
Oh, Lane Street. I'll tell you what, Lane always comes up with some real gems in the chat room. So Lane Street has come up with, Alexa, is the loo full?
Oh, no.
Onboard Alexas, that's what we need.
No, we don't.
Okay.
No, we don't.
Hello, Jonathan Warner.
Uh-oh.
So, Matt, would you like the camera things in the toilet then?
No. Well, they're not in the
Okay.
toilet, are they? I suppose so. That'll be okay.
Looking up at you from the bowl. No.
Oh dear. That'll be a treat for everyone, won't it?
Anyway, moving swiftly on. We'll flush that story away.
Yeah. Okay.
You like that? I thought you'd like that.
Yeah.
So moving swiftly on to the next story, and this one obviously is a Ryanair story for you, Matt, and something that I'm sure you would be happy with, this particular situation.
Yes, indeed. So this is on the Scotsman. That's the Scotsman.com, and the headline is Scottish passengers stuck for 12 hours on Edinburgh-bound Ryanair flight had to pay for water. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so Scottish holidaymakers who were stuck on a hot Ryanair flight for 12 hours had to pay to buy water. Passengers on a Ryanair flight FR6627 from Lanzarote to Edinburgh were scheduled to take off at 11:20 a.m. on Friday. However, the plane was grounded on the tarmac for around 5 hours before it was diverted to Bordeaux. It finally arrived at Edinburgh Airport at 11:30 p.m. The budget airline blamed the delay on adverse weather, but passengers on board dispute this. One passenger told the Daily Record it was due to too much fuel, they had to burn it off, and in turn couldn't get another slot. To make matters worse, irate families had to fork out €3 for bottles of water on the flight despite the stifling conditions, as the airline only handed out free water after the plane had landed in France, 9 hours after passengers had boarded. After being confined on board for 9 hours, paramedics were called to the plane after a woman became unwell. A mother who was travelling with her husband and young baby had to be assessed by paramedics in a waiting ambulance after disembarking. John Rafferty told the Daily Record the lady sitting next to us asked for water after we had been sitting on the plane in scorching heat for 3 hours. The stewardess said she wasn't authorised to give it out. A while later, they started selling water and non-alcoholic drinks for €3. I had to pay €3 for water and €5.50 for a panini. It wasn't until we landed in Bordeaux 9 hours later that we were offered free water. We understand that things sometimes happen, but the way it was handled was so poorly done. A statement from Ryanair said this flight from Lanzarote to Edinburgh, 27th of September, was regrettably delayed ahead of takeoff due to adverse weather conditions in Lanzarote before departing to Edinburgh later that day. Ryanair sincerely apologised to customers for this delay, which was completely outside of our control.
No, I have to say, I definitely don't think this would have ever happened on a US-based carrier. They would have already, they would came around with water straight away, I think, if the plane.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. And I think a good sort of corollary to this is just in the past few years, I've noticed that here in the U.S., the gate agents have a little bit more leeway into issuing vouchers, travel vouchers and refund vouchers for either oversold flights or delays or something like that. And I think that was a move that was smart on the part of U.S. airlines, where they're empowering the people on the front lines a little bit more, right? So if this cabin crew if this flight attendant is sitting there saying, hey, I'm not authorized to give you free water, even though it makes sense to everyone, I think they're, like so many things in Ryanair, I think they need to reevaluate, the value of negative press versus the money that it costs them to give free water to folks on a stranded flight. So really, as a management technique, empower your people, empower those that are there, the face of the company, interacting with the customers, to prevent this at the front line, basically, to prevent that negative media and negative exposure. I think it would go a long way for not just Ryanair, but some other airlines too.
I mean, the only thing I would say to that, I mean, a small part of me is sort of thinking perhaps, I think this is the same with all low-cost airlines. I think it's like, the trouble is that I guess you've got that issue of the trouble that you could possibly get into if you've authorised suddenly giving away loads and loads of bottles of water. As you say, it's just like, when margins are so tight when it comes to these low-cost airlines, I can understand why cabin crew would be very, very sort of unwilling, if you like, to make that decision. But I mean, surely there must have been someone that they could have contacted, especially as they were essentially on the ground for a long period of time. I mean, they must have had a way of getting in touch with the powers that be.
What I wonder about is if there's any regulations for confining people to an enclosed area without providing water and
I know there is in the
food for an
airport, isn't there?
extended period of time, because technically you're just keeping people there.
Yeah, true.
So,
Well, here in the U.S., there's fines if if you have some passengers on an airplane. I can't remember if it's 3 hours or 4 hours, so they'll do everything in their power to deplane them.
True, that is true. Before we move on to the next story, Neil Lanwarn is the first one to send us an official photograph
I
via
sent
our
one.
WhatsApp. No, you don't count. You're sat next to me. That doesn't really count. This one is.
But my photo was nice.
Yes, it was nice. Yes, so this is the Mig Alley at the Polish National Aviation Museum in Krakow. Look at that! Isn't that a beautiful?
Oh, thank you for that, Neil.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's but
Wait,
obviously.
what a great test, Neil. So now we know that it pops up on the feed perfectly. Look at that.
Yeah.
Well done, Neil. Our first WhatsApp picture.
there was a little bit of tweaking. Owen also sent us one of a spaceman waving, but
Thanks.
Unfortunately, it's only 2 seconds long, so by the time I've pressed all the buttons, it'll have disappeared. Hello,
Oh, someone's got the sound up.
something me.
Matt.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next story, and Armando, you have taken the BA throne this week.
How about I propose that Mila does this BA story, and I'll take the next one.
Oh, okay.
let me find the
okay.
link. It's
Panic?
number 3 then.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know where
Matt.
that ping is coming from. I'm so sorry.
In the meantime,
Volume.
Right, it's Mr. Warner has discovered that it is pinging live on the feed, so he keeps literally sending the word ping. Look,
Mr. Warner.
stop it, Mr. Warner. Oh dear. Right. Okay. How do I mute that?
that's funny.
How do I stop
Turn
it?
your volume down on your laptop.
Well, no, it is down. That's the trouble. But because it's stop it, Mr. Warner. You and I are going to fall.
I love
out
it. I love our chat room. They're just doing everything to
I'm going to have a meltdown any minute.
ensure we succeed.
Yeah, notifications. Here we go. Sounds. There we go. Ha ha. Mute.
Well done. Well done.
Victory is mine.
All right.
Yes.
So, Mila,
Hooray.
what's
Sorry, everyone. I'll go and have a coffee in a minute. I'll be fine.
Okay, good.
Carry
Well,
on.
here we go. Business traveler posts British Airways to co-chair with Malaysia Airlines on the 2nd of October 2019. Let's see what it says. British Airways is set to launch a co-chair partnership with its One World partner Malaysia Airways. The co-chair will cover 14 destinations in Malaysia and 9 cities across Australia, Cambodia, Indonesia, New Zealand and Vietnam. The airlines both offer daily non-stop flights between London Heathrow and Kuala Lumpur. Travelers will be able to through check to their final destination and collect their boarding passes in advance. BA Executive Club members will also gain more frequent flyer benefits, while Avios can be used on reward flights, upgrades, hotels, experiences, and for part payment. Subject to regulatory approval, Malaysia Airlines will also co-chair with BA on European points. Passengers can now book seats on both airlines' websites for travel beginning on October 9th. So that's that. Pretty awesome.
So code-share, we find a lot of airlines doing the code-share thing now. And obviously BA, I think they should code-share with, who is it? No, who's it American code-share with, Armando?
Well, they
Oh, there's a
American
whole
all
lot
sorts
code-share
of
with-
BA and
yeah.
all sorts, don't they? They do all
Yeah.
sorts of bits and pieces.
Yeah.
This will be good news for Nev. He can obviously go into his executive lounge
Oh, dear.
as a club member,
Radio then.
which hopefully I'll get a sample of that in next month. Fingers crossed. Yeah. So Armando, how would you like to take this next story? Which, to be fair, when I saw this come over the news feeds this week, I was rather, what can I say, taken back by the video that goes with this.
Yeah, I think the video has made its way through the internet, even international news, and it had to do with a beverage cart at Chicago O'Hare that something must have gone wrong with it, and it started spinning out of control. So aside from spilling its contents everywhere,
Oh yes, I've seen this. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it was just inching close. Like every time it did a circle, it was just inching closer and closer and closer to the nose of that Embraer jet, and you could just feel the impending doom as it was going to hit that that jet, and a very astute ramp worker picked up electro tug, jumped on it, nearly avoiding the beverage cart itself. And then those electro tugs will move everything up to a Gulfstream 6. It'll certainly move an Embraer jet, and he just plowed into it, knocked it over, therefore saving the day. So they American Airlines gave him an award just recently. He said he was just doing his job. It was an employee of Envoy Airlines, which is a subsidiary of American Airlines. So the video of the incident showed the cart operated by airline catering company Gate Gourmet swinging in circles. Matt's playing out the video there. Before it collided, Mr. Manalang drove a second vehicle, which was Electro Tug, slamming the wayward machine onto its side and thus ending the chaos. Safety is our number one priority, and I did not want anyone to get hurt, so I used the pushback tug to stop the cart, he added in a statement. He will be recognized for his efforts, according to Envoy. American Airlines spokesman Ross Feinstein said no one was injured and applauded the ramp worker whose quick action stopped the vehicle before it crashed into a nearby regional jet. And I did see on another social media feed that they did present him with an award, I think $2,000
Let's be honest here. If that would have hit that aircraft, because it was literally on its next swing round, was going to wipe out.
That was going to take out the nose, wasn't it? Yeah,
aircraft.
that was going to cost a lot.
It would
of money,
have cost
wasn't
the
it?
company, well, more than £3.50.
Yeah. So awesome job to Mr. Hold on, it's Manalang, and good job, quick thinking.
Yeah.
And a win for the Rampies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Neil Landmore says, "Rise of the beverage carts." This is how Terminator
Taking
starts.
words. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jonathan Warner's stopped prattling around, by the way, now.
Has he?
Instead, he used said WhatsApp thingy to send us this.
Oh, that's nice.
Isn't that lovely?
Oh, I love that. So listen, that is one of my favorite pictures from Jonathan Warner. And I've asked him a couple times, he owes me, because I want to blow that up and hang it on my wall, in my house.
There we go.
There
Mr.
you are,
Warner.
Mr. Warner. Yes, absolutely.
Armando at planetalkinguk.com.
Com.
Yes,
no, you're right.
Com.
Right the first time. Well done. Yeah.
No, it's for the audio podcast. It's a beautiful picture of a U.S. Army Beech 18 that he took. I don't remember where he was, but
I'm sure
what a beautiful airplane.
Yeah.
That is my dream airplane.
Yeah, this is what we like. There we go. Okay, I'm sure Mr. Warner will be on it.
I'm sure he will.
Yes, indeed.
He does take some great photos, does Mr.
I
Warner.
know it's exhausting, frankly.
Well, we got two, Dan Hannington as well. We've got all these fantastic
absolutely.
photographers in the community.
It's only you and I that are crap at it, really.
That is
to be
true.
fair.
Yes, that is true.
absolutely.
To be fair, whenever I want any tips, I just either text or WhatsApp.
Well, Captain Nick, of
Dan
course, is the legend.
or
Yeah.
Mr. Warner.
Yeah.
So next story is on the Forbes website, Posh website.
Forbes.
And this one is the headline is 6 affordable airlines to fly in business class. Now, this appeals to me because I'd like to go business class and not have to pay £4 million for the privilege. So have you ever wondered which airlines regularly offer the cheapest business class fares? The secret is out. Flying in business class has generally never been so affordable, and if you really do your research, you could be flying on a live flatbed for the same price as an economy ticket. So there are certain airlines that have consistently had very cheap business class tickets. Your own private space, slightly better, food, and also alcohol and all the things you desire most. Importantly, a bed as well. So below on this story is some of the cheapest airlines to fly in business class. So we're going to just whiz through these.
Can you say business class and the word cheap all in the same sentence?
Business class.
I'm not
Nearly.
sure that's right.
Well, that's what the article is about.
Yeah. Okay, yes.
So first off, Aer Lingus, the awesome Irish airline Aer Lingus. So if you're flying between Europe and the US, Aer Lingus offer some great lie-flat business class fares one way. Business class on their A330. You can expect fares of around $1,500 return from Europe to the East Coast and $1,800 return if flying to the West Coast. We've got Aeromexico. So if you're flying between North and South America, Aeromexico offers some incredibly cheap business class fares. These are on their 787 Dreamliner, offering lie flat beds. This particular story booked a fare from Los Angeles to Sao Paulo for $650 one way, which was nearly 14 hours flying time in business class. We've got Turkish Airlines, an airline I would love to try because they've got some great reviews online. Turkish Airlines 787 business class, or Turkish Airlines flagship Boeing 777 in a 232 seating. You can get Turkish Airlines from Europe to Southeast Asia for around $950 one way. We've also got Iceland Air. I love Iceland Air because they still fly the 757. So Iceland Air, Iceland Air is never going to win any awards. It says here for business class, but however the price is
because they're
awesome.
flying 757s.
So their business class is more like a domestic first class in the US, meaning no lie flat beds. However, for as low as $1,000, return between Europe and the east coast of the US. The prices are more comparable with economy fares, not to mention a free stop in Iceland. TAP, or Portugal, the Portuguese airline. If you're flying between Europe and the US, then TAP is going to be your likely best option value. With other expanding route maps in the US, a new very respectable business class offering on their new 330-900 Neos. Fares across the Atlantic for as little as $675 one way. TAP has also recently introduced the A321LR Neo, which is adding a further business class option from Lisbon. We've got AirAsia. They're offering flatbeds, lie flatbeds, free bottles of water, meals. AirAsia's business class is going to set you back around about, wow, this is cheap. This is $300 one way.
That's
on
all right.
lie flat bed. So there we go. The cheapest places, they're not too bad fares, to be fair, considering how much it costs to fly, say, in BA in first class. But have you ever flown first class anywhere, Marla?
I have been given a ticket first class once by the company.
First
Really?
Just the one
First
time.
class.
Just the one time.
Ooh,
What airline was that with?
say.
KLM.
Really? Ooh. What?
Well, the thing was, I was covering a flight for somebody who couldn't fly it, and I was supposed to go home that morning, and I was called to ask if, please, could I fly this flight? And I said yes, because I like to fly.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I definitely
Any
yes.
excuse, yeah, absolutely.
And they booked me a day later to go home,
Oh, that's not so bad then.
and that was a nice surprise. Yes.
I bet. Yeah.
Was that the
Spoiling you.
Dash 8, 747-8 KLM or A340? Can you remember?
I guess it's a bit
Put you on the
hard
spot,
putting her
yeah.
on the spot. Absolutely.
That was
Mile enough.
probably 773
7.3.
from
Oh.
Birmingham to Amsterdam.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
Was it nice?
It was very nice. I had a good meal and a blanket,
Champagne?
and it was really nice.
Yeah.
I was very much spoiled
Yes, I bet.
by
I bet.
everybody.
Yeah,
But let's be totally honest here. Mila has the best seat anyway.
right.
For her
Okay.
job.
Yes.
It's
No.
first
true,
class
true.
every day.
Any first officer or captain does. I think
It's
to be
the
fair.
best
yeah,
seat in the
absolutely.
house. There we
Yeah,
go.
there we go.
Definitely.
Before we move on to the next story, some more pictures are coming in on the old WhatsApp.
Who's this?
This one's from Owen. This is from Duxford. I presume in the American hangar, isn't it? I
Yeah,
think
that
that
will
one,
be,
isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, Armando will be able to tell us exactly what that plane is, of course.
That's an F4 Phantom with an
Yeah.
F-15 in the background and a Sopwith Camel, a
Yeah,
PT-17.
all right, you can stop showing off now.
Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Think the side of a B-52.
Yeah, lovely. Moving on. Yes,
To the
everybody
next
knows
story.
you're smart. Yes. I
The,
suppose it's my go now, isn't it?
It's it's a Ryanair story.
Yeah.
And,
What number is it? Sorry.
6.
Ryanair story. This is on Sam Chewy.
Oh, good old Sam.
Awesome website. This
Who we
is.
have had on the show. Let's
We
not
have had
forget
on the
that.
show, yeah.
Absolutely. I see it's got the word Thomas Cook in it, which makes me a little bit sad. But anyway, yes. So, interesting story, as he says, it's a Ryanair
Well, this
story.
is actually interesting because one of the shows I listened to was speaking this week about what's going to happen with all the Thomas Cook aircraft. That
Yes, well, I dare say most.
Yeah.
Well, certainly, I know, we know from I think last
which a
week
lot
we
of
were
them
saying
released.
yeah, a lot of certainly
a lot of
airlines are
released,
busy
yeah.
fighting for the slots, aren't they, that have been left behind. But anyway, so this is on the Sam Chewy website, samchewy.com. Who is the he's sort of specialises in flight experiences, doesn't he?
Does.
As saying, we had him on the show a while back now. It must be a good 2 or 3 years ago now,
Yeah.
isn't it? But anyway, Ryanair in talks to acquire Thomas Cook Airbus A320s. Oh, that's an interesting move. You'd have thought they'd still stick.
Oh, this is for their partner airline, Lauda.
Oh, of course, right. So Ryanair is currently in talks with lessors, holding on to Thomas Cook aircraft about taking several Airbus aircraft to be used by their Austrian subsidiary Lauda. According to Flight Global, Ryanair plans to increase... Oh, that's helpful, isn't it? Sorry, pop up there. According to Flight Global, Ryanair plans to increase the size of Lauda's fleet to competitively handle the 2020 summer schedule. Chief Executive of Ryanair Group Michael O'Leary states the number of aircraft acquired would depend on pricing and their availability to hire and retrain pilots and cabin crew before the summer season. As airlines begin to accept greater amounts of Airbus A320neo aircraft, young A320s with the classic engine variants are becoming vastly available, with 8 to 10-year-old examples being competitively priced. This has sparked the idea of adding second-hand aircraft to Lauda's fleet to increase capacity and strengthen operations. Lauda already operates a fleet of 21 Airbus A320-200s powered by a mixture of CFM International CFM56 engines and International Aero engines, the V2500s, meaning aircraft acquisition isn't tied to engine availability. As well as the used aircraft, the plans, Ryanair is also holding discussions with Airbus and Boeing about potential aircraft orders beyond 2024. This is when their existing order backlog is set to close. However, because Boeing is focusing on returning the 737 MAX to service and Airbus is battling their production capacity, pricing is not great. Instead, O'Leary says he'll be waiting for the next price cycle to enhance talks with both manufacturers. Citing Flight Global, Ryanair, its UK division, its Polish subsidiary Buzz and Malta Air have combined a total of 456 Boeing 737 next generation aircraft in service. Ryanair has orders for 135 Boeing 737 MAX 8s with purchase options for an additional 75 aircraft.
It was always going to happen. I mean, these aircraft will be obviously repainted, have all the old Thomas Cook stuff taken off, and other airlines these will be leased to other airlines.
Yeah.
Which is always a shame because sometimes registrations are kept if they stay in the same country, if they're G registered for the UK. So you sometimes see the aircraft with the original registration on. But it'd be interesting to see what happens here. Obviously, Lauda all operate the Airbus aircraft, so it's natural they'll take these on. But
indeed. Another picture coming in on the old WhatsApp, by the way. So this one is from... Oh, no, that's me. Sorry, no, I didn't mean to
nice
press
picture
that
of Matt there.
That's a lovely picture of me, wasn't it? Moving and everything. This one is from Jenny in Rome, which is very exciting. And this was her last flight from London Gatwick to FCO, which what's the airport code? FCO?
Fiumicino.
Oh,
is it Fiumicino?
Or is it whatever it is?
Mila knows.
I don't know.
So, somebody will correct it. Anyway, it was back in August. Anyway, it was back in August. Anyway, that sort of stomped on it. That's an EasyJet, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a 320. I don't think that's a Neo. It's an old CEO.
No, okay.
So Armando, do you want to take the next BA story?
Sure.
It's good news for Auntie Liz as well.
Yeah. So BA operates its first Airbus A350 flight into Toronto. It is using the A350. The Toronto flight was due to be the type's inaugural long-haul flight for the British flag carrier. However, the aircraft entered long-haul service sooner than anticipated, flying to Dubai. The A350 is the latest aircraft type to enter British Airways fleet. It's been seen as British Airways ditch its first class offering while revealing a brand new business class cabin. The first Toronto flight was operated by British Airways' second Airbus A350 Gulf X-Ray Whiskey Bravo Bravo. That's incredibly distracting. You guys should only hear what's going on in the background.
They can't hear it. It's only you can hear it.
I know they can't hear it. That's the beauty of it.
Sorry, Matt's just had to blow his nose, and unfortunately,
it's like having to read a story with somebody make funny faces in front of you.
Sorry, mate. Sorry.
Let's see. The 1st of October 2019 marked British Airways' first flight into Toronto, wow, this is incredibly redundant. Let's see, flight time of 7 hours, 10 minutes. The aircraft actually landed in the Canadian city earlier than had been scheduled, according to Flight Radar 24. Great circle distance of 5,723 kilometers. Yeah, so there you go. Officially A350s into Toronto. So maybe Auntie Liz can get a ride.
Oh, definitely.
For the 300th.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Radio. Yeah, why not?
And that would be
Yes,
good.
No
definitely,
pressure.
definitely.
Indeed, it's Mr. Warner is sending another item for your perusal, Mr. Carrion. There's he did tell me what it is. Is it a B1? Is it a
that's a
B1B Lancer?
Lancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a B1, probably right on takeoff as the gear is coming up. That's a great picture. I bet you he took that down in Fairford.
Yes,
That's,
correct. Yes,
what-
yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
What a wonderful picture that is.
So good.
Keep
Mila.
it coming, guys. As I say, it's
Yes.
I've forgotten what the number is. Has anybody remembered it yet? +44 7572 249 166. Keep those WhatsApp.
Give us that
messages
number
coming
again,
in.
Matt.
It is +44
Yep.
7572 249 166.
757. I'm glad you got your favourite aircraft in there somewhere.
Oh, balls.
Oh, anyway, moving swiftly on. Mila,
I'm changing the number. That's it.
take off. Take the next story, and this next story on the what's this? Cairo7.com.
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 Cairo7.com. One more time. FAA to look at airline seat sizes following years of complaints. They're probably too big. Washington, after years of complaints from airline customers about seat space, the Federal Aviation Administration is now stepping in to see how much space you should have when flying.
Oh, interesting.
Complaints about jam-packed flights and shrinking seat sizes were enough to prompt Representative, I guess, Steve Cohen, to get the FAA to look into it. They're not maintaining passenger comfort. Passenger comfort is a thing of the past, Cohen said. As a result of his bill, the FAA now plans to set a minimum seat size after testing how fast passengers can evacuate a plane, saying it must be done within 90 seconds. The Group Airline for America told WSB-TV Washington Bureau reporter Blair Miller that it's trying to maximize personal space in the cabin while keeping safety top priority. Cohen takes issue with that. The public is not being put first. The public is being treated like a FedEx package. But FedEx treats their packages better, Cohen said.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Well, for perspective, a typical chair in most offices is about 20 inches across. In 1985, that was the seat size for most airlines. That was a Goodyear. Since then, seat sizes have dwindled, in some cases down to 17 inches, which is about the same width as a computer keyboard.
Oh,
Charles
really?
Liotra is with Travelers United and works with federal agencies on customer complaints. He told Miller that the airlines are raking in billions of dollars because of the smaller seat sizes and says it's long overdue for the FAA to step in. The FAA has a lot to deal with right now. They've got to deal with reality, Lioka said. That reality, seats are getting smaller while Americans get bigger.
And I suspect it's not just Americans that are getting bigger. I think we're all getting bigger. Let's be honest. Another picture from the WhatsApp group, by the way.
Okay,
who's
this from?
So this one's come from some guy by the name of Armando Carrion.
Oh, him.
Yeah, absolutely. This is
Top man.
This is a horrible picture. This is. There's the little puppy. I know, isn't that terrible? I zoomed it in and everything. Look at that. Yes.
Talking about little puppy, today is Animal Day in the Netherlands.
That is
which
true.
Which means you have to cuddle and give your pets treats and just take good care of your animals. So
Right.
That's
there you
every
are.
day in my
Really
house.
appropriate picture.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
it. It's approved.
Yes, he's very relaxed there.
Yeah, she just lays there for the whole podcast.
Does she?
No.
Oh,
loves it.
right.
She
That's little Lois Lane. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but as I say, to be fair, as you know, I mean, I've said many times before, this podcast is officially listed by the National Health Service as the only known cure to insomnia.
And
So,
also, where's Superman?
well, that's Armando,
Are
obviously.
we having
So
it?
her, Yeah, her brother Clark Kent was
No, really?
was also a little foster. So we only picked up Lois Lane, but we still know where Clark Kent is.
Good.
Dear
Actually, Stephen Hitchen in the chat room, going back to the story.
Stephen
Hitchen,
sorry. Yes.
No, Stephen Hitchen makes a good point, actually. He
Yeah, go
says,
on.
if the width of a 737 cabin hasn't shrunk and it's still 6 abreast seating, where has the space gone?
Oh, good point. Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Interesting point,
actually.
isn't it? Yeah. Well, they probably squeezed in another row or something.
No,
silly,
well,
haven't
no.
they? Yeah.
But it does. I mean, I've never really noticed a seat being not wide enough when I've been.
Yes, I know,
on,
but that's because
yeah.
you're not of ample build, Carlos. This is the thing. In my world, it is very much a noticeable.
If anything, I'd like a wider armrest.
Right. Okay. I'd like a wider seat, but anyway, that's just. Well, no, genuinely, it's like with Ryanair. You know, it is right on the limit of what is acceptable. What is comfortable for me to? I mean, I'm like that close to needing the extension on the seatbelt thingy for like, you know, and the trouble is you know, I know it's my fault because I'm a bigger guy, etc., etc. But I do feel I'm very aware of the poor person who sat next to me, especially as with Ryanair and most of the low cost carriers where it's absolutely, you know, where you're sort of packed in, you know, up to the rafters and stuff. I mean, it's not so bad like if I've got, say, like Owen or someone next to me because he takes up
the back.
well, yeah, between the two of us, we end up two average sized human beings. But it's just like,
what's your seat like on the flight deck of the aircraft you fly, Marla? What's your seat like? I imagine it's very comfortable.
Well, it's okay. You can adjust it various ways, and I have to put it all the way up and all the way forward. But no, yeah, it's fine.
It's comfy.
Yeah, and we've got some really big, tall people in the company, and they can just sit in there as well, so it adjusts really well. You have to kind of find the setting that works for you, because if you're sitting there for 2, 3, 4 hours, then you can get a little bit uncomfortable. But I guess that's the case.
Is it like the
with any
Boeing seats where you've got that kind of sheepskin type
Yes, we've got a nice little sheepskin and the 5-point belts.
harness? Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do, though. We need to move the flight deck seats to the passenger cabin.
right.
Problem
okay.
solved.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. And we're going to go on to the express.co.uk.
Brace yourselves.
And this one, the headline here is EasyJet flights set to get even cheaper as the airline reveals a major change for booking. So EasyJet flights are set to become even cheaper after the low-cost airline has decided to get rid of its booking fee. The change that came in on the 1st of this month, October, will see fares get a lot cheaper for passengers flying on the airline. And also, Britons who have already booked a flight with EasyJet will get a refund as well. And we go, pop-ups here galore. So previously, customers' flights were chosen by EasyJet customers had a £16. I've just got another pop-up come up again on this website, Matt. This is really annoying.
But it's your favourite shop.
I know. It's not my favourite pop-up though on here.
No,
I have to say.
Is it going away?
It's not going away. No, this is really annoying. Let's try and refresh this story again. Apologies, everyone. This story is incredibly annoying.
Hang on a minute.
There we go. So for the fee meant that booking alone could prove more expensive as a solo traveller who was forced to spend £16 for a booking fee. However, for a group booking, the cost will be split between everyone in the party, while scrapping the fee. And it's just done it again. Matt, do you want to take this story, because this pop-up is going to annoy me to sheer.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, Matt's going to take the story.
Yeah, so where had we got to? Sorry.
So the
£16.
Yeah, £16.
We got to £16.
Okay, yeah. So there we go. It's just switching cameras. There we go. So let's so the fee meant that booking alone could prove more expensive than a solo traveller was forced to spring for the entire £16 themselves. However, for a group booking, the cost would be split between everyone in the party. While the scrapping of the booking fee may be great news for flights and holidays going forward, will those who have already booked their plane tickets manage to benefit from the price slash? I think the short answer is no. EasyJet has said that it will not be handing out refunds for those who've already booked, although some passengers may be frustrated that when that they were not told of this change earlier, the low-cost airline said it cannot give advance warning of changes to fees before it makes them. What other EasyJet fees should passengers be aware of? So one fee passengers have to pay is £25 for an infant, according to the EasyJet website. Airports charge us fees when infants under 2 years travel. This fee covers that cost. If you're travelling with an infant who will be seated on your lap, only an additional baby changing bag is allowed for the infant. That's 45 by 36 by 20 centimetres. This must be placed under the seat in front of you. If the infant is occupying their own seat, they are allowed a cabin bag plus a changing bag. Another charge is the £15 group booking fee for those who want to be sure they all sit together. This applies per passenger per flight. Is what, £15 per passenger per flight? It's an awful lot of money, isn't it? That's probably nearly as much as the damn flight, isn't it? Anyway, EasyJet says the big benefits of our group booking scheme are that we will block your seats together and that you can add names of the passengers later. I suppose that's kind of handy. EasyJet also does not charge for debit and credit card transactions. What's more, airports and security charge and fuel charge are not added to your price. Government taxes are included in the flight price you see when you book and are not extra charges. Last month, EasyJet launched its Speak Now app. It allows customers to search for flights using voice recognition technology, with the app initiating a conversation. You're right there, Armando.
Armando's
That's one hell of a
flies.
swat. Look at the. Hang on, pop that back. That is a beast of a swat.
It's just swatting flies. Don't mind me.
No, okay, you carry on. It's just like the carrier has. It allows customers to search for flights using voice recognition technology, with the app initiating a conversation and asking questions to determine the booking customers want. The carrier has recorded that to book a typical flight online or on the app takes 12 taps, yet the Speak Now, this can be done in a matter of seconds. EasyJet has partnered with Dialogflow, Google's cloud natural language understanding tool, to help create the conversation with the use of artificial intelligent technology. I bet if you put Carlos in front of it and he speaks in his marvellous Norfolk accent, he's got no hope.
Can I have a flight to...
I'd like a flight, please.
I'd
Where
like
are we
a
going?
flight,
Anywhere
please.
nice? Hoya Hammer Hour here, Hinny. That's the Geordie version.
I think all fees should be scrapped. Booking fees, any fee, credit card fees,
Ticket
keys
prices.
for fees.
I mean, I must
You know.
admit, part of you sort of thinks, why on earth do we have these individual charges? If they're compulsory, if they're not something that appear as a result of variables or factors, why are they not considered part of the fee for buying the ticket in the first place? So, if they're not add-on charges, if you're always going to be charged a debit card or credit card transaction, if you're always going to be charged £2.50 for an admin charge or whatever, then
I thought they abolished all fees for using credit cards anyway.
no.
Yeah.
I think they abolished it on debit cards, but not on credit cards. You can still do what you like on credit. It depends on the company. I think it's a company policy rather than sort of like government legislation.
Drinking whiskey there, Armando?
Yeah, I just told Lane in the chat room it's a Lagavulin 16.
A what now?
Cheap stuff.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Top shelf whiskey. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Armando, do you want to take the next story with the exploding tyres for Qantas?
Yeah, that's right. Qantas has launched an investigation after 4 planes in their Q400-8 fleet had tires burst in the space of 4 weeks. The Australian airline confirmed to 9 News it has ordered sweeping safety checks on the aircraft, with tires on 31 airplanes also being checked. In August, a Gladstone-bound flight had to return to Brisbane when a tire exploded mid-flight. 2 weeks later, on September 11th, another Dash 8 had to return to Canberra, where one of its tires exploded. Last Wednesday, passengers aboard a Cloncurry-bound flight were startled when they heard a loud bang as they pulled onto the runway. On Sunday, Qantas flight QF2512 with 72 passengers on board had to circle Brisbane Airport for 90 minutes after another tire ruptured. So Qantas is now working with the tire manufacturer to determine why the ruptures occurred. The airline maintains all Dash 8s can land safely even with a damaged tire, and that all of their aircraft have passed precautionary checks. In the past 12 months, Australian Transportation Safety Bureau has recorded just 6 tire issues with all Dash 8 aircraft in the country. So this is an interesting story. I did watch some of the videos, and I think Matt played out one of them from a passenger on board. It is, it's probably not sabotage or anything like that. It's probably a bad batch of either retread tires or
retread. You honestly use retreads on a commercial airliner?
Yeah, I don't know about Qantas, but I used to buy retreads for my Lancer, so it's cheaper. They're supposed to be just as good, but it's obviously some kind of manufacturing fault.
I mean, the only thing I would say against that is, like, certainly the whole thing is the fact that they're retreads. So rubber does perish. That's the only thing. So if it's been retread, the tyre is already. If you've had to sort of retread it, essentially the tyre is. You think the forces involved when you do land. I mean, yes, all right. If you're Armando and you land gently all the time, continuously without fail, then perhaps it's less of an issue. But all it would take is a couple of hard landings, and if that tyre is sort of the rubber has perished, I must admit. I personally think I'm very surprised that that's allowed. I know certainly in the coaching world, or certainly for the very good company that I work for, that it's not something they do. Not anymore.
I think it's here, at least in well, first of all, I don't know that these are retreads. I was just saying if they are retreads, right, then this could be a manufacturing fault or a bad batch. But here in the trucking industry and buses here, I don't know about buses, but I know for trucking, certainly retread is a common thing, and in general aviation, retreads are a common thing. But either way, there is an issue with some of the tires to have 4 and 4 weeks, when previously there was 6 and 12 months, and then it's specific to the Q400-8 fleet. So I'm sure they'll be able to get to the bottom of this, and every tire has markings on it that tells exactly what batch it came from, when it was produced, where it was produced. So I'm sure they'll be able to find the cause of this and fix it pretty quick.
We've got another candidate for Nev's media fails again on this story, Armando.
Yeah.
The story's
I'm just
about
seeing if I can bring it up.
A Dash 8 Q400. Just looking at the picture on the story. That's a really interesting Dash 8 Q400.
Is it?
Would you say it's a Dash 8 Q400, Milo?
No.
Is it? Hang on. Is this it here? Hang on. Yeah, I'm doing it now. Hang on.
There
Here
you go.
we go.
For those in the chat room watching in the live YouTube room, this is
a lovely picture of me.
A lovely picture of Matt.
I've done it again. Sorry.
There we go. That's 9 users' picture of a Dash 8 Q400. They must have had a revamp on the engines, and
the fuselage and the tail and the wings and the
cockpit.
Are you in fact suggesting that isn't the aircraft they're talking about?
It's
A little bit, maybe.
yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. So
Yeah.
I tell you what, Nev's got so much. If he ever wants to do a segment specialising in media fails, I mean, he's got
Loads.
so much material now. It's just not funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Micah in the chat room saying, love those PT6s on that DC-9.
Oh dear.
Good old Micah.
Regarding the Qantas story, so Tony S says we use a lot of retreads here in the UK. So there you go. Apparently it's a thing.
Well,
I'll tell you what,
I'm
you've only got to drive along the motorway here in the UK.
Obviously,
and there's
left behind.
behind everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know. Tell me about it. Yeah.
Oh, here's a good one. Certainly not a good year for them. From Stephen Hitchin.
Who said that?
That's from Stephen Hitchin.
Okay, could you put Stephen, please, on a 10-minute timer for that, please?
10-minute timer.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
On the naughty step.
Put him on the naughty step.
Or we could just give him the title show, or the show for the title. Title for the show. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Somebody send that to me in a WhatsApp because I'll have forgotten
Not
in 10
a good
minutes.
year.
Yeah, not a good year. Go on,
Somebody
somebody WhatsApp that to me
to the PTK.
When I'm going, what is the show title? I'm going, because we had a really good one. Hello, my phone's just got off. Wonder why. Goff off.
You're struggling
I am
tonight,
struggling
aren't you?
today.
You really
I'm
are
so
struggling tonight.
Yeah.
You mean we should I was going to say we should send that to the +44 7572 249 166.
Yes, everybody send that to
Well
me now.
done, you.
Yeah. Da-ding, da-ding,
Yeah.
da-ding,
He's so good.
da-ding. Or you
So-
can be like Jonathan Warner and just send me hundreds of ping notifications because I'd left my
Yeah.
noises on my computer. But anyway.
So the next
that's all right.
story
is this over yet?
is on Flight Global. It's Nev's favourite website
does love a
for the
font.
font. And Milo, you're going to take this A300 story.
Right. Airbus, it's on Fly Global, and Airbus begins UPS Honeywell A300 cockpit trials. So that's interesting. Let's see. Airbus has begun flight tests of the Honeywell avionics upgrade for the A300-600 freighter fleet of UPS, a modified A300-600F MSN 868 made its first flight from Airbus Toulouse plant on the 12th of September. We have started testing cockpit equipment and functionality, says Airbus. Awesome stuff. Airbus expects the cockpit upgrade to be certificated next year to allow UPS to take delivery of the first aircraft in mid to late 2020. It features an advanced electronic flight instrumentation system based on Honeywell's Primus Epic flight deck.
And if you're listening or watching on YouTube, you can actually see the cockpit they're talking about now on the screen.
That looks brilliant.
It does look quite posh, doesn't it?
I like it. I like it quite a bit, to be honest. I wouldn't mind flying that.
I mean, it doesn't scream at me that it's massively different to the left-hand side, if you see what I mean. Because they've done a very nice split screen thing there. I mean, it's just like an aid to, isn't it, rather than...
Well,
they haven't reinvented the wheel, essentially.
Well, it's moved a lot of the dial, the actual other functioning steam gauges from the left-hand side, from the current cockpit, combined them into two separate screens.
Yeah.
So they'll be able to switch the displays on
Whichever
those
ones
two
they want at the
screens
time, yeah.
to show what other functions of what they had before on the old flight deck.
It reminds me a little bit of what they've done with my aircraft, actually.
Oh, is yours, Matt? Yours
'Cause
had this.
We've got a glass cockpit version and a regular version, and the regular version looks a little bit like the left, and the other one like the right, and it's nice to see that.
Because you've flown both now, haven't you?
Yes, I
Yeah,
have.
and which do you prefer?
I don't know, actually.
Do you
In the
prefer-
beginning, I used to prefer the old version because I was used to that, but now that I've got some experience on the other one, I really like that too.
Do you not find, though, with the glass screens, Milo, that you get loads of sort of
Glare and
fingerprints,
stuff,
and people sort of, you get fingerprints left on the screen, which is really annoying if you get glare.
Well,
no,
the thing is-
it's only annoying if it's you.
Well, yeah.
The thing
Because you
is,
hate stuff like that, don't you?
we don't have any
No, really.
buttons near the screens at all, so your hands technically shouldn't even be there.
I think Armando's
it's not
agreeing
too
with
bad.
you. Yeah, he doesn't like it either.
Yeah. You're completely right, Mila. There are no buttons, which is perplexing why people touch the screen. I fly a lot of G1000 aircraft, and I still don't know why. I don't know if it's like a, hey, here's the map,
Look
here's
at
the icon
this.
on the map, here's the widget, here's the thingamajig. Stop touching the screen. On the two of the airplanes that I fly, we actually printed out some labels that say, don't touch the screen. It's not a touch screen.
No.
Yeah, because the trouble is when you get
Unbelievable.
glare on there, it does. It really
can see
does.
that- you can see the
Yeah,
fingerprints,
it's not very
yeah.
good.
And then you have to use a special spray and a special rag for it because you can't just Windex it and
No.
paper towel because it's an
Yes.
incredibly expensive screen.
Yeah.
Speaking of touch screens, the Garmin G750, I fly one airplane that's got a large touch screen GPS in it, and I'm not a fan at all of. I mean, in bumpy skies, it's you got to figure out a way to put your hand on the bezel and then touch the button.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of touchscreen in aviation.
Me neither.
That's just me.
When you hear the calls on the radio to say fly heading this or fly altitude that, your hand should automatically go to wherever that specific button
Yeah.
is. So you shouldn't be even near the screen in your muscle memory anyway. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
So great for the A300. Boo
Yeah.
for the rest of us.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, carry on.
I was going to say, Carlos, before we go on, kind of a unique, since we're talking about UPS, here in the U.S., I saw another article that said UPS was just granted a Part 135 certificate for the first drone airline in the world. So UPS. I'm sure we can talk about it next week, but I think UPS is looking forward to staying up with Amazon in their unmanned aircraft fleet. But it's they got issued a Part 135 certificate from the FAA for all drone airline.
Nice.
So we'll see what that looks like in the future.
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
Okay, so we've had our first video sent via the via the.
Have you vetted the video though, Matt?
I haven't. No, but it has. And the only thing that makes me slightly nervous is it has come from Jonathan Warner.
Oh dear.
So, anyway, it's sorry, because I brought the thing up, I can't quite see what. It's apparently this is a 4 Rolls-Royce Conways of
the VC10, yeah,
deafening the crowd at Bruntingthorpe. Look, here we go. So this will be of interest to Mr. Landwarn, no doubt, as well. Here we go.
The noise of these Conways is so cool.
How cool is that noise?
Yeah, we got the chance. Me and Nev got the chance to go on board that when we went to Brunty not so long back. Yeah. That was very good, very good. Interesting because it's obviously based on a passenger aircraft, so it's very it's nice inside. It's got good, nice. The chairs inside that. I'll tell you what, the seats inside that. If they had those in economy now, it would be there'd be no arguments at all. And
one last one from Jonathan Warner here.
Oh.
So this is Captain Al taxiing to depart after taking me and Philip Davis to Duxford for that meetup that we had back in I think it was April time, wasn't it?
Oh yes,
like
yeah.
Look at that.
Hopefully
he steered to the right on that picture when he took off.
Right. Okay. Yeah, didn't sort of go over the house. You don't think?
Or through the hedge.
I see Mr. Landwarn has just sent me a message as well, so we'll look at that in a minute. Anyway, carry on.
So that's where we bring the commercial news. We're going to regret doing the WhatsApp thing.
No, not at all.
So that's where we bring the commercial news segment to a close. But up next we have our last instalment from the Biggin Hill Festival of Flight. Just want to say before we play the video again that a big thanks to everyone at the Festival of Flight at Biggin Hill who helped to make the day absolutely fantastic for me, Matt and Nev. Ali, special mention to Ali, who sorted out all our interviews and done all the logistics for our day at the Biggin Hill Festival of Flight. She really did pull all the stops out for us, didn't she, Matt?
She did, absolutely. It was a completely incredible day, wasn't it? Yeah.
And the weather was awesome.
It was acceptable.
Yeah,
it was very acceptable.
Did Nev get burnt on that trip? I can't remember. He did.
Well, you only have to put Nev outside for about 10 seconds, and he burns.
Yeah.
So I think he was fairly burnt. Yeah.
So that video, we're going to play that out for you right now.
Are we? Okay, here we go.
So we've been very privileged indeed again today to be able to come over towards the background of the Heritage Hangar, which is behind us, and we're here to talk to Don Sigorne. How are you, Don?
Very well, thanks.
So Don, what do you do here at Biggin Hill?
My normal day job is flying passengers in the 2-seat Spitfire, so I do that 5 days a week pretty much throughout the year. And then occasionally we have air displays like this. I fly one of the single-seaters or the Hurricane for air displays.
So Don, I think it's safe to say, I think the listeners will agree, you have probably got one of the best jobs in aviation.
Yeah, it's not bad. If you've got to go to work, there are worse ways of doing it. Most people tend to say that, but the problem is, like every job, it does become a little bit repetitive. But as I said, at the end of the day, if you've got to sit in the cockpit, there are worse ones to sit in.
So any preference between the two aircraft, Don?
When you mean that, do you mean the Hurricane and the Spitfire?
The Hurricane and the Spitfire.
Always the Spitfire. I think it's a nicer aeroplane to fly. The Hurricane's obviously got its own attractions. It's a slightly easier aeroplane to fly on the runway, certainly. You can see a lot more, but it's not as manoeuvrable. A little bit heavier on the controls. The Spitfire's the thoroughbred, really.
How do you go from general flying to flying something like the Spitfire and the Hurricane? I mean, what path did you follow to get to this position?
Okay, well, I started off with a flying scholarship in 1978, so I learned to fly then, got up my PPL, and then I joined the Royal Navy as a pilot. So I flew in the Royal Navy for 20 years, and one of the jobs I had as a second duty was flying and then running the Royal Navy Historic Flight. So I used to fly the Seafair and the Firefly mainly, which is really a great grounding for this sort of thing. I mean, the Spitfire is just a baby Firefly, really, in many respects. Much lighter, a little bit more nimble. So the techniques of flying any big, heavy piston tail dragger is pretty much the same. So once you've done, flown on one, then they're all very much a case of just learning what the differences are, the systems of the aeroplane, and just its own individual handling quirks. But they're all pretty much the same. Pull the stick back, the earth gets smaller. Push the stick forward, the earth gets bigger.
So how did things start for you, Don? Where, from the very beginning, was it the kind of the PPL, then making your way up to...
Yeah, as I said, I basically applied for and got a flying scholarship through the CCF when I was at school. So I got my PPL and then decided very quickly that I didn't want to go to university and be an engineer. I actually wanted to fly for a living. So I applied for and joined the Royal Navy for the Fleet Air Arm and went through the training there, ended up on the Sea Harrier. So flew the Sea Harrier operationally as a day job and then instructed on that and the Hawk and the Hunter. And then, as I said, meantime as well, flying the historic flight aircraft. So displaying the Firefly and the Sea Fury mainly.
It's safe to say you've had a great career.
It's not bad, yeah. I then, after 20 years, went into the airlines, flew there for a number of years, and then into corporate aviation, flying business jets. And about 5.5 years ago, decided I wanted a life back and did something completely different, just carried on flying. And then just over 4 years ago, got a phone call, asked me if I wanted to come and fly for the Heritage Hangar. Wow. So I've been here full-time pretty much since then.
So what commercial airliners did you fly for the airlines?
I flew the Embraer 145 for a company called British Regional Airlines, which was a great company, but unfortunately got bought out by British Airways, and all the problems with a big airline like BA sort of came home to roost, and they asset stripped the company effectively and then sold it off to Flybe. So I left before that happened.
So some of the characteristics of the flying you do, obviously you fly the Spitfire and the Hurricane. Yeah. Tell us a bit about each of the aircraft and the performance of both of those aircraft.
Well, they're both obviously 80-year-old plus by design fighters. As I said, the Spitfire is more of a thoroughbred. It was certainly an aeroplane that got developed much more through its life. The Hurricane basically was the same aeroplane at the start of the war as the end of the war, pretty much. Whereas the Spitfire went through many, many marks, bigger engines, longer fuselage. But as I said, the Spitfire really is the real sports car, whereas it's probably a bit like comparing a Ferrari with an MGB. They're both sports cars, but one handles a lot differently. It's certainly much slicker. If you look at the wing shape, or particularly the wing thickness of the Spitfire, you'll notice it's a very thin wing compared with the Hurricane. So as an example, if you've got the two aeroplanes flying alongside at the same power setting, same speed, and lower the nose and do nothing else, the Spitfire will pull away very quickly because it picks up speed very quickly because it hasn't got as much drag.
The aircraft you fly here, Don, are they both original aircraft built back, towards the end of the Second World War? Are these new?
No, these are aircraft that flew during the war. Yeah. They're original aeroplanes. Obviously, there's been an element of restoration and refurbishment, but they're pretty much as they were.
And the restoration that goes on with the guys here at the Heritage Hangar, is that all done? Is that volunteers? Are these engineers?
No, it's a commercial operation, so they're full-time engineers are on a full salary. And labour of love, of course, as well. But they're passionate about what they do and very good about it.
So, Dom, plans for the future? What anything you've got sort of on the back burner, say, waiting to go on to?
Flying wise, no, I'm quite happy here. We'll wait and see. Nobody's told me I'm sacked yet, so hopefully I've got a job next year. But you never know. Aviation is one of those fickle industries. You can never really say what ifs or whatevers. Just wait and see what comes along. But I'm quite happy to stay here and see my flying career out if that's how it pans out. But you never know, as I said, things change.
So Don, before we wrap up, one of the last questions we always ask pilots that we interview for the show all across the world is, given the chance to fly any aircraft, either retired or flying, commercial, military, GA, you could jump right in now behind us here and go off for a flight, what would it be?
An aeroplane that I haven't flown, it would either be the Lightning or the Mosquito.
Excellent choices. I don't think we've had those on the show before, no? So good choices. Yeah,
definitely one of those two, I think.
Brilliant. Well, Don, thank you ever so much for your time. It's been great to speak to you, and I'm sure the listeners will appreciate to hear what you've been up to and the aircraft you fly in. Before we go, how can the listeners find out more about what you do?
Go to our website, the Biggin Hill Heritage Hangar. If you Google that, Biggin Hill Heritage Hangar at Biggin Hill, all the information's on there about what we do, both flying in, flying with, flying alongside, looking around the hangar, sitting in the spit, all those sorts of things, just a hangar tour. All the information's there.
Brilliant. Don, thanks for joining us, and thanks for being on the show, and have a great day.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
I'd forgotten how windy it was. It was really
but
windy,
it was
wasn't
warm.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
It was warm.
warm.
No, it was warm. Yeah, no, I'll give you that.
What a job Don's got, though.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine
What,
waking up in the
flying
morning and saying, "Oh, what am I
Spitfires?
going to do today? I'll fly a Spitfire."
And I'll fly a Spitfire.
Yeah.
Oh, perhaps I'll have a go of
a Hurricane.
Yeah. Basically anything with a Merlin engine in it, and I'm going. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but big thanks to Don for that. That was great to speak to him there. And that kind of wraps up our Biggin Hill interviews.
What an incredible set of interviews we got from that, actually. Yeah.
I think we should go back there next year.
Jonathan Warner is complimenting you, by the way, on your muff control. Great muff
Thank
control,
you,
by the
Mr.
way.
Warner. That's very kind of you.
Yes. Despite the windy weather, you did very well.
Yes. That Nev does have a fantastic
fabulous muff. He does,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's award-winning.
So, moving swiftly on, family show.
Family show.
That's your bit. That is.
Sorry, shall I do it properly? Family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show.
That's another £10 in the pot.
Is it? Excellent.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we are on commission with APG, right?
I think APG.
Okay.
They must. I think they owe you around about $5.5 million.
Splendid,
dollars
lovely.
now.
Enough for a flight out to Charlotte, then, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we're going to hand things over to Armando to introduce the next part of the show.
Yeah, Carlos, what a good interview and a great segue into the military segment. And we're going to continue on with that World War II theme if you guys are ready to go.
Let's go.
Oh, yes, why not? Get me. I'm getting the hang of this.
You are getting good at this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Are you going to tell me off for talking all over the jingles now?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Armando, you're live.
All right, guys. So as we most likely know, we suffered the loss of a B-17 just a few days ago in Connecticut. And this was a B-17 called 909. It was part of the Collins Foundation. They did suffer a mishap and 7 fatalities in a crash there when they were doing one of their demonstration flights. So instead of focusing on the sort of obvious tragedy of it, I had a friend that both had flown in 909 and flown with the pilot, Mac. So if you guys will indulge me for a second, I'm actually just going to read his response to this B-17 crash. So this is from Joe Coraggio. Joe is a Reno Air Race pilot. He's race 611. He's ramp rat racing. And he writes, yesterday's tragic loss of friends and passengers on the B-17 909 made for a difficult day for many. I've only been a volunteer on the tour with the group a few times earlier this year, where I had the privilege of flying 909 with Mac. I can't say I knew him as well as most of the other volunteers that knew him, and he barely knew me. Yet he looked after me and shared as much knowledge and experience with me as he could in our short time flying together. You couldn't help but learn a lot from a guy like him if you pay attention. Mac had a particular way. He had expectations of his co-pilots and his crew members. He had techniques born of his decades of experience. As often can be the case in flying, and surely in my flying experience with Mac, sometimes the test comes before the lesson. He could be curt and no nonsense during these times until you knew better. But he was the kind of guy who was also generous with giving you the lesson. His methods and my respect for his knowledge, abilities, and experience surely made me work harder to learn more and perform better each time I flew or worked with him. His presence, leadership, knowledge, experience, and ways will sorely be missed by all who knew him. Yesterday's events also opened up many more thoughts for me, mostly pertaining to why we fly these old airplanes and do some of the things we do as pilots, whether it's racing, formation, aerobatics, backcountry, etc. We undoubtedly accept more risk by doing so. But we do it with open eyes and our focus on identifying and mitigating these to the maximum extent possible. By and large, we do a good job of this. Unfortunately, there are always aspects out of our control, even with risks identified and robust mitigation strategies. But we do these things because it is who we are. We are pilots. We get our enjoyment from flying. We believe in our missions and understand their value. We aren't wired to sit on the sidelines and watch life go by. We get involved, and we live true to who we are as participants in life. Sharing these living pieces of history, like 909, with others is unique and humbling experience. It is much more than a cool airplane ride or a cool type in your logbook. It's sharing history in a very real way for kids. It's giving a veteran who served the chance to experience the sights, smells, and feeling of their time in service. It's giving their families a way to connect with these servicemen and get closer to them, whether they are still here or not. It's honoring the greatest generation. It's getting millennials out of the house to experience something that's not on a screen. It's a noble, important mission, and I'm a better person for being a small part of it. Mac made sure of that. So that's a firsthand account, and if you guys will again sort of bear with me for a second, I'll read a little bit about the history of 909, the aircraft itself. So it was actually 909 was built too late to serve in World War II. It was later rebuilt to resemble the original 909, who was a veteran of the bombing campaign over Europe. The aircraft had a long post-war career, including a stint as a target in nuclear tests, before a lengthy rebuilding process restored her to flying condition. The bomber did have a close call in 1987 when a landing mishap severely damaged the aircraft. The original 909 was a Boeing B-17G Flying Fortress. Nearly 13,000 B-17s were built over the course of World War II, serving both in the Pacific and European theaters. Each four-engine bomber had a crew of 10, a top speed of 287 miles per hour, and could carry a payload of 4,500 pounds of bombs on a long-distance bombing mission. The B-17 was assigned to the 323rd Bomb Squadron, 91st Bomb Group. 909 was part of the legendary 8th Air Force, bomber force that struck strategic targets across Germany and occupied Europe. The aircraft's name came from its serial number, the last three digits of which were 909. The airplane's nose art depicted a Revolutionary War soldier holding a telescope and riding a bomb. The original 909 was assigned to 8th Air Force in 1944. By 1945, she had flown 140 missions without a single mission abort. It is believed to be the 8th Air Force record for most missions. 909 also never lost a crewman as a casualty. The bomber made 18 trips to Berlin, flew 1,129 hours, and dropped 2,810 tons of bombs. The bomber was dismantled after the war, and the second 909 was built at Long Beach, California by the Douglas Aircraft Company, accepted for U.S. Army Air Force service in 1945. That aircraft never saw combat, but was converted to an SB-17G search and rescue aircraft in 1951 and served in Puerto Rico. The aircraft later served as part of the Military Air Transport Service, the precursor to the current-day Air Mobility Command in the U.S. Air Force. In 1952, it was retired from U.S. military service. The aircraft was renamed Miss Yucca, parked on a nuclear test range in Nevada, where she was subjected to 3 different nuclear explosions to test the effects of nuclear weapons on aircraft. After a 13-year cooling down period to allow radiation to subside, the bomber was sold as scrap to the Aircraft Specialties Company, which began a lengthy restoration. The bomber then served 20 years as a forest fire water bomber, dropping water and borate on forest fires. In 1986, the bomber was finally sold to the Collins Foundation, which restored the aircraft to wartime condition as 909. Following the crash, 909 suffered a crash shortly after that. It was restored for a third time, stopping at over 1,200 locations before the accident this week, where 7 people tragically lost their lives. So the investigation is going on, and we'll figure out here in the near future what must have happened inside that aircraft. And I've told a couple people already that these are some of the most experienced pilots in the world, incredibly methodical, meticulous. So whatever must have happened must have been, something obviously catastrophic, as my friend Joe said. So
I take it the investigation will be taken by the NTSB, Armando.
Yes.
And I'm also guessing that this probably hasn't got flight recorders in.
Most likely not. But this is it's I wouldn't call it a tourist aircraft. There's I'm sure plenty of witnesses on the ground. Usually when they do these demonstration rides, there's a queue of people waiting to fly. There's the entire ground crew, the support crew, the air traffic control folks in the tower at Bradley International. So I'm sure they'll be able to reconstruct. And by all accounts so far, I think Micah did a segment for local news agency because he's up there.
Yeah.
But by all accounts, it had an engine issue with the number 4. It flew around, came back for a landing, which I can only imagine that they practice, incessantly doing a 3-engine landing. But again, something after it got on the ground must have gone wrong and resulted in the mishap. So I'm sure we'll get firsthand accounts and witness statements and then there's the 7 survivors. So we'll figure out.
Lots of love in the chat room, by the way, for reading your reading of that, by the way, Armando. So a very touching story, as they're saying. So good choice there. It's nice to hear a bit about the aircraft itself as well.
Yeah,
indeed. It's Lois Lane has just woken up, for the sound of it.
Yeah. Lois has woken up.
Indeed. So, well, I think that's a perfect cue to move on to our next story, Carlos.
Next story is on the popularmechanics.com website, and the Air Force, it says here, wants to turn the C-5 Galaxy into a flying hospital. It's definitely got the room for that, that's for sure. So the US Air Force is taking a hard look at using the C-5 Super Galaxy airlifter in the aeromedical evacuation role. The C-5M's carnivorous cargo area, plus newly added electrical capacity, will be useful ferrying wounded troops, refugees and injured personnel out of war zones and natural disaster areas. The Super Galaxy's long legs make it capable of crossing the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans in a single bound, quickly bringing those in need of medical care back to the continental US. The C-5 Galaxy is the largest aircraft in the US military arsenal, operated by the US Air Force. The monstrous plane is 247 feet long with a wingspan of 222.8 feet. The C-5 can easily carry 250,000 pounds of cargo or passengers, and the jet's carnivorous fuel tanks allow it to fly up to 5,500 miles unfueled, long enough to make non-stop flights from Yokota Air Base in Japan to Travis Air Force Base in California, or Incirlik Air Base in Turkey to Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. In the late 2000s, the Air Force upgraded the 52 of their C-5 Galaxies to the new C-5M Super Galaxy standard. The M upgrade includes new, more reliable engines, glass cockpits, all-weather flight control systems and GPS navigation. All of these, plus a cargo box 13.5 feet high, 19 feet wide, and 143.7 feet long, making the Super Galaxy a large and useful piece of flying real estate. According to the Air Force magazine, the service is pondering turning that real estate into a flying ambulance. The Super Galaxy's huge internal volume of 34,000 cubic feet of space, plus its ability to power life-saving medical devices, make it an attractive proposal for airlifting people in need of medical attention. The C-5M could not only move people out of war zones or disaster areas, it can also move scores of them in a single flight. The aircraft would embark Air Force critical care teams to keep the injured stable until they reach their destination. The Air Force's C-130s and C-17 transports currently fulfill the aeromedical evacuation role, with the C-17 capable of carrying up to 60 stretchers at a time. The C-5M, the Air Force thinks, could lift more than 100 stretchers at a time. That would be particularly useful in a wartime scenario. In addition to the evacuation role, the C-5M could also bring in emergency workers and medical and disaster relief supplies. C-5M could load up to 281,000 pounds of food and water purification supplies, rescue equipment, tents and first aid supplies, unloading the contents at the airport to those who need the help. The C5M would also face some challenges in the aeromedical role. The big plane is less capable of taking off and landing from smaller, unimproved runways, particularly those devastated by natural disasters. Then again, all the aircraft would have problems in a major disaster. The Air Force maintains several rapid response civil engineer units known as Red Horse teams to swoop in during emergencies and work to quickly open airports and air bases. The C5M is currently being evaluated for the medical evacuation role, with concept currently being tested during the Mobility Guardian exercises. If the airplane is certified for the job, the US Air Force would have an unmatched ability to scoop evacuees and ferry them to safety. And the C5M is expected to operate in the US Air Force service through to the 2040s. Wow, that's not a bad lifespan. But I take it you've probably been on board one of these in your time, Armando?
I have. It's an incredibly large airplane. Even as a career aviator, I was always amazed at how the C5 even gets off the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to be clear, the C-17, C-5, C-130s, numerous other cargo aircraft have always had the capability to put stanchions in the cargo compartment and go into a medical configuration. I think what they're perhaps talking about is a fully configured hospital aircraft, where it remains in that configuration. That would be, especially in a C5, what an amazing capability. I think the U.S. Navy has 2 ships that they regularly send to disaster areas, and it is a floating hospital capable of over 1,000 patients.
Wow.
So having the capability to send a C5 into an area in need it'd be really interesting and just a great capability. I think it would be the only capability of its type in the world.
So just for clarification, would that be like an operating theater, or would patients actually stay in there, or would they be in like a tent camp and then go into the airplane and out of it, or how does that work?
So some of the most elite medical teams in the world already have the ability to do an operation in the air, and I've seen them practice this, where the aircraft are outfitted with an oxygen system, surgical lights, suction, an entire medical kit, and they regularly practice this. Unfortunately on pigs, which have the closest anatomy as far as I know. Right. So they'll take a live pig and do all the way up to open heart surgery on an aircraft. Some of these joint medical teams. So they're already capable of doing something like that, but it's a pretty, modular roll-on setup. So I think to have a section of the airplane where they can do, an operating theater, an operating room, I think that's probably what they're talking about, as well as, a permanent, as you see in the picture on the article, there's already litters, with a seat pallet where you can take, ambulatory patients, probably 50 ambulatory patients and maybe 50 litter-borne patients. So, it'd be all the way up to open heart surgery, I'm sure.
And then they provide extra oxygen for altitude compensation? Or?
Yeah, we had these. So we retired the MC-130 Papa, which was originally used as a search and rescue airplane. That aircraft actually had extra regulators, so you could put extra crew members as well as passengers on oxygen. So you can, Wow,
that's impressive.
So that was good. Well done. So the next story. Who wants to take this, Mila?
Mila, yep.
I'm going to take this one. It is by military.com. Bell unveils new 360 Invictus attack helicopter for Army's future wars. Bell has unveiled its proposed single-rotor design for the U.S. Army's future attack reconnaissance aircraft, FARA, a cutting-edge helicopter that may be optionally manned. The 360 Invictus helicopter will be loaded with a 20mm cannon and an integrated munitions launcher able to carry Hellfire missiles or rockets. It will be able to adapt for future weapon integration in order to fight in urban environments, according to Bell. Bell showcased its design to reporters at its facilities in Arlington, Virginia on Tuesday. The Army realized that they absolutely do need a smaller aircraft that's able to operate in urban canyons as well as out in mixed terrain, said Jeffrey Schlusser, Executive Vice President for Strategic Pursuit at Bell.
So, I mean, is there anything else that we're having trouble opening the rest of the article here in the UK? So I don't know whether there's a bit of a hiccup with the thing. Is there anything else that we need to know from that article, Armando?
Other than it's probably the coolest looking helicopter out there.
Can I just say, Matt, if you put Matt, you've got the picture to put up, but
okay,
don't you think, Armando, this looks like a posh version of Airwolf?
Yeah,
I can hear the music.
If Matt can get the picture,
Yeah,
here, for those of you in the chat room watching in YouTube world, this to me just looks like a really posh version of Airwolf in green, in a dark green rather than black.
It probably is a 45-year-old aeronautical engineer that designed this to be like, I have the perfect idea for this helicopter.
Yeah. Absolutely. This is
Brilliant.
Well, the rest of the article is unsurprisingly vague. So it said Schlusser said the 360 Invictus has, quote, high cruise speeds, long-range capabilities, and advanced maneuverability, all intended to help it dominate the future battle space. Oh, I think we should do the news with background music like that from now on. They're talking about 200-mile-per-hour aircraft, modular system, and the best part of it is it fits into a 40-foot shipping container, so you can pack a couple of them into a C-17 or a C-5.
Actually, Captain Nick in the chat room, hello to you, Captain Nick, nice to see you in the chat room. He says, does it have whisper mode? Oh, yeah, do you remember whisper mode? I used to love it.
I bet you it probably will have.
That's a chocolate
Probably
bar,
will
isn't it?
have whisper mode.
And armoured rotor blades.
Oh, nice, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that what's when they fire at it and you get all the sparks and the... Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's still one of my favourite shows from the 80s. That really is.
Is it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
I'm sure it can also hover over the target vehicle and then squirt out oil from two things a James Bond vehicle.
Yeah.
And that was Kit.
Yeah. Oh. See, I'm a Knight Rider fan. That was my baby. I loved
Actually,
Knight
on the
Rider,
subject of helicopters, and this will probably be way too old for even Armando to remember. Do you remember Blue Thunder?
No.
See, look,
no
everyone's
idea.
blank face. Look, someone in the
Yeah.
chat room will probably remember the show Blue Thunder.
Right, okay. Anyway, I'm going to take the next
Just
story.
Google it,
while
Armando.
everybody-
Google it.
while everybody's having that...
In process.
Yeah, okay. Processing. Anyway, corporatejetinvestor.com is the next website. And the headline is Philippine Air Force orders Gulfstream G280. So Philippine Air Force has placed an order with Gulfstream for a G280, which the manufacturer says it will be used in a command and control role. It is believed that the G280 will operate for the 250th Presidential Airlift Wing based in Pasay City in Greater Manila. The aircraft will likely be outfitted with extensive communications equipment, although it's currently unclear if it will be outfitted for use in a full surveillance and intelligence role. The G280's unmatched performance, combined with the backup of our world-renowned customer support, make it an agile and reliable platform for the Philippine Air Force, says Mark Burns, who's the president of Gulfstream. With more than 70 speed records and the ability to operate at steep approach airports, the G280 can perform a variety of challenging missions. According to a December 2018 article on Filipino news website Inquirer.net, former Air Force Chief Lieutenant General Galileo Gerard Kitchener said in his outgoing speech that the Air Force would take delivery of 2 control and command aircraft in 2019. The government has been using aircraft from Philippine Airlines for overseas travel, although it does operate an aging Fokker F-27 turboprop as well as a turboprop. That was
Turboprop.
we'll go with a prop instead, shall we? As well as an equally aging Fokker F-28 jet aircraft. You're really trying to trip me up this week, aren't you, Armando?
Turbotrot. That's how we measure horsepower.
That is indeed.
Turbo throttle.
Absolutely. Well, it is National Animal Day in the Netherlands, so there we are. So both Fokker aircraft were previously operated by Philippine Airlines. I promise you I'm not swearing. It is believed that the other control and command aircraft will be, is it CASA C295M turboprop? A US Department of Defense, DoD, contract notice dated the 17th of September states that Gulfstream had won an order from the Philippine Air Force for the supply of 1 aircraft parts and a 2-year logistics support. The DoD notice stated that the total contract value is $31,899,999. I don't know why they don't just sort of round it up to $31.9 million, but that would be too boring, I suppose. Anyway, the current list price for the G280 is $24,500,000.
Is that all?
Yeah, I know, absolutely. We'll order 2. Gulfstream says that the aircraft is scheduled for delivery in 2020 following configuration for command and control missions. The DoD notice states that the contract is due to be completed by the end of 2022. The contract includes 2 years of logistical support, inferring that the G280 will be delivered before the end of May 2020.
Yeah, I think it's a little known fact that Gulfstreams operate in so many air forces. It's an incredibly capable airframe, all of the Gulfstream platforms. So I know the U.S. has looked at Gulfstream 5s and Gulfstream 6s to replace some of the aging C-130 multi-role aircraft. So I know a couple other air forces are using Gulfstreams and other business jets, but yeah, the G280 has been around since I think the 2012-ish, something like that. But just an incredibly capable airframe with some legs and some speed. So, and you know, why design a military airplane for a specific purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. If there's one in the commercial world that more or less is, you're right there.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments about the Blue Thunder film. In the chat room.
What are they saying?
1983, actually, that was.
Oh my goodness! Right.
It was a film as well as a series.
Oh, was it?
It had Roy Schneider as one of the.
Wasn't he the one in Jaws?
Roy
Schneider.
I think he was.
Wasn't he?
Roy Schneider,
the guy with the coolest sunglasses in the world.
Yeah,
okay.
Main Man Micah says it was an awful film.
Oh dear!
Did you manage to Google it in the end, Armando, to see what the Blue?
I'm going to
Blue
disappoint you and let you know that the Blue Thunder was actually a Gazelle.
Okay.
It was a 1973 aerospatial Gazelle, which is an unexciting helicopter.
Right.
Oh yeah, but it had big guns and missiles.
Right.
And
do you
everything.
Do you mean there may have been a little bit of poetic license in a TV program?
Neil Lamborn has put Discount Airwolf. Yeah, I suppose it would have been an Aldi version of Airwolf.
What was it like? The BBC equivalent, was it? Is that?
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
That would have been like filming Top Gun with a Cessna 172. You know.
Oh, no, come on!
Now that I would pay money to see.
No, okay.
Although in the beginning of Iron Eagle, there was a great Cessna 150 flying sim.
Right, I'm downloading that film now.
Oh no!
Tonight.
Just download the first 5 minutes. That's the only part worth watching.
Okay.
Iron Eagle.
Is
That's Iron Eagle 1, not Iron Eagle 2, 3, or 4.
Oh, blimey, it's one of those films.
Anyway, that is where we wrap up the military segment for this week. Before we start closing up the show, however, I just wanted to share an email that we'd received actually during the week here. I think it was yesterday or the day before, because it's got a very interesting photograph that comes with it. So anyway, it says, "Hi PT UK crew. I'm currently listening to the latest podcast, episode 288. It was very sad to hear the news about Thomas Cook Airlines, but I thought the way that you guys covered it on the podcast was really good. It was great to hear Captain Al speak about his experiences, and although clearly still hard for him as a student pilot, it is great to hear a captain speaking with so much passion about both his job and the employer. Hopefully I get to sit beside someone like him on the flight deck one day. I'm finishing the last of my P1 hour building before sitting my CPL flight test. I was flying in the southwest of Ireland, and I diverted into Shannon, EINN, parked at the airfield in EINN.
Echo India November.
Echo India November. There were 8 Thomas Cook A321s and 1 A330. I'll just pop that picture up while I'm doing that. And a representative from the airfield operations told us that they were owned by an Irish leasing company and were flown to Shannon for storage before respraying in another airline livery. I just thought it was interesting how quickly things move on in the aviation industry. I attached a few photos. Apologies for the quality. They were absolutely massive compared to my little Cessna 172. Anyway, really enjoy the show. It gets better every week. Kind regards, Owen Dowling. So thank you very much.
Thank
for
you,
that.
Owen.
Yeah, thank you for that,
Yeah.
Owen Dowling.
Yay.
Yeah, but what a lovely. Can you see the picture there? I mean, it's sort of it's quite brutal, actually, isn't it? Yeah,
it is sad to see that.
yeah, and I think we had quite a few photos that were sent to us, obviously, as the story was unfolding, and it was quite sad to see these aircraft being parked at remote stands. It was sort of, as they were arriving, it was quite brutal. But again, as everybody I'm sure appreciates, I mean, it was very hard for Captain Al, and I want to personally thank him for doing such a good job of sort of handling what was a very difficult subject, as I say, because we were keen to sort of try and make it more about the people, because obviously the mainstream media had done to death what was actually going on. So yeah, again, I'm sure from all of us here, thanks again to Captain Al for his very kind words.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened to that yet, it was episode 288. So that's last week's show. Yeah. If you wanted to go back and listen to Captain Al, have a really good chat about that.
So what we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is something we've never done before, in the fact that Carlos is going to wrap up the show really efficiently.
Okay.
It's not going to take him 15 minutes to say goodbye.
So,
for goodness sake.
Yeah. This is where we're going to wrap up the show then. Yeah. So that's,
what are you up to this week? Anything exciting?
Oh, this week. What am I doing this week? I am warehouse based Monday and Tuesday, and hopefully might be out and about in the lorry at some point during the week.
I might see you on my travels. I should give you a wave. Absolutely. Marla, where are you flying to? I know you mentioned it at the top of the show.
I'm
tropics?
going back to Amsterdam tomorrow evening, and then Sunday morning, first flight out to Oslo. So I can work this week to fly into Bodø back. So
lovely.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Very cool. Armando, what's on the itinerary for you?
If anybody happens to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, tomorrow is the Laney's Airport fly-in. That's November 92 is the airport identifier. Little grass strip, that's where I fly skydivers out of. And if you're in the area, come on by. I doubt anybody will be there by the time this airs on Sunday.
Yes, it'll be gone. But anyway, absolutely.
There might be someone in the chat room.
Yeah, there might be someone in the chat room. Absolutely.
No, other than that, pretty easy week. No flying planned at all. Just paddling on the lake and finishing up in the house.
Very nice.
Indeed. So there's lots of ways to get in touch with the show if you want to.
How can we?
There's a new way.
Let's start with the WhatsApp way.
Let's start with the WhatsApp. So a new way to get in touch with the show. So it's +44 757, which we all know is my favourite aircraft. So it's +44 757 249. No, I'm doing it wrong. That's not good. Somebody else do it. I'm ready. +44 7572 249 166. That's +44 7572 249 166.
We need one of those posh. All right,
I'll leave that in your more than capable hands. Obviously, you can contact the show by email. It's podcast@planetalkinguk.com. Search for us on social media: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You'll find us by searching for the handle @planetalkinguk, and it is www.planetalkinguk.com. Don't forget to take yourself to the T-shirt page if you haven't done so already. There's we've got some fresh T-shirts in stock.
Fresh T-shirts,
so if anybody hasn't got a T-shirt and would like one, go to the website where you can purchase one there. I need to talk to you about mugs, actually, because I think there's two people we need to send some mugs to, I think.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So that is where we're going to bring episode number 289 to a close of the Plane Talking UK podcast. Thanks to everyone who has joined us in the YouTube chat room this evening. All the family members in there. Hope you have a great weekend, whatever you're doing. Enjoy your Sunday roasts. I'll be doing a charity day Sunday in Southwold on the coast, and we are looking at having...
Nick told us to stop blathering.
Actually, Nick would love...
I can say an APG member has just told us to stop blathering.
Nick would appreciate what's going on Sunday, because we are having a charity dog walk day for dash hounds or sausage dogs, whatever you want to call them, on Sunday. We're hoping to get more than we had in March, because we had just under 500, so we're hoping to better that on Sunday. But yeah, that's on Southwold in the coast, so we're hoping to raise lots of money
Awesome.
for a great charity.
And also, don't forget to cuddle your pets and dogs
yes, 'cause
and
it's
cats
National
and
Animal
whatever.
What about your
Day.
bears?
Because
Yes,
yes,
and your bears,
definitely.
yes.
Because
Charles, the PT
it's,
UK
it's
bear.
Animal Day
Yes.
today, so they deserve a little love too.
Absolutely.
So take care, everyone. Don't forget to join us next week. Nev will hopefully be back on the show, and we should hopefully be live on Friday again. So from all us here in the PTUK studios and Armando in his studio, have a great weekend.
Hey, oh, there's Lois Lane. Look, there we
And
go. He's cuddling his dog on order. There we go. Yeah. Take care, everybody. See you next week. Bye bye.